Welcome back to Common Sense. I'm Wendy Bell. Michael Cohen admitted he would negotiate settlements for one amount while representing Donald Trump and then present them to the Trump Organization as a much bigger amount, of course, keeping the extra for himself. We call that embezzlement, but instead of prosecuting Michael Cohen for the crime, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg signed him up for duty and used Cohen as his star witness to sue Donald Trump, who was the victim of Cohen's theft, for failing to itemize payments made to the man who's accused of embezzling from him. Makes total sense, right? Of course not, but why should it? This unraveling legal circus is as ridiculous as Trump being ordered to pay $90 million to a woman he didn't rape, or being raided and accused of stealing classified documents he didn't steal, or for trying to overturn an election that he did not fix. In case after case, it's the definition of lawfare. Has the relentless persecution and prosecution of Donald Trump backfired? Do you think more Americans now see him as a victim? Let's bring back the panel. Chris Arps is the co-host of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on News Talk 101.9 and 94.1 out of St. Louis. Mary Walter hosts the Mary Walter Radio podcast, airing Tuesday nights on YouTube, and Rich Valdez hosts Rich Valdez America at Night on Westwood One. Hey, Chris, I want to start with you now. Alvin Bragg wants to imprison Trump for 100 years, right, for failing to itemize payments he reportedly made to Michael Cohen, the man who admitted in court to ripping off the Trump Organization. At least we finally got to a crime in this case. You know, this is not a race thing, you guys. But there are a lot of voters in this country who see this imploding case as persecution, and it feels all too familiar to them. Trump was supposed to be the criminal here, Chris. Now he's kind of a martyr. Yes or no?
Yes. You know, Wendy, we talked about in the last segment how Hispanic and African-American voters are trending towards Donald Trump. And I think the part of that reason is the lawfare that they see against this president. I mean, what we're witnessing is something out of a banana republic. You have a former president that has been indicted 4 times, 94 charges. The legal bills that he is garnering on this are absolutely exasperating. I couldn't imagine trying to pay that. And I think Americans are seeing this for what it is, that this is the Biden administration that is going after the Republican presidential nominee who is leading in the polls and is still leading in the polls. A poll came out today that showed that Donald Trump is still leading in 6 of the 7 swing states. He has a 50% lead in Nevada and Ohio. That's why we're seeing this lawfare, I believe.
I don't disagree. You're right. And Mary, remember, Trump is accused of knowingly falsifying business records to hide payments he reportedly made to a guy who was stealing from him, right? Alvin Bragg's prosecution called 20 witnesses. Team Trump called 2, and neither was Donald Trump. Do you think that was a good decision or a bad decision?
You know, I think when you're winning, just end it. Like, they ended it basically on Michael Cohen. And I think it's fantastic. And I love the fact that the Democrats are going to throw Michael Cohen away faster than, someone throws Stormy Daniels away after a one-night stand, right? So he's being used. I love it. I think it's justice. It's delicious. But I think what's happening is there is a fatigue that is happening among the American population. We're like, okay, Donald Trump's a bad person. Yeah, we're going to prosecute him again. And nothing's coming of these things, right? You kind of see it on the faces of the anchors on MSNBC and CNN. They kind of look beaten down just a little bit, which makes me happy. But they're kind of like, oh, here we go again, and nothing's going to happen. Democrats, I think, once again, overplayed their hands.
Right. Well, this hush money case, Rich, seems very much in doubt, of course. We're going to find out next week. The classified documents case is indefinitely postponed. You have Fani Willis, a Georgia election interference case. That's in some giant holding pattern. So has the left accomplished its mission? Have they damaged Donald Trump?
I think the miscalculation that the left made here was really simple. They wanted to poison Trump even further for their base, thinking that would fall over into the independents and the rest of the country. The problem is it didn't work. The independents and the rest of the country went the other way when they saw, oh my gosh, this could happen to me. It could happen to anybody. Look at how they're treating this man. And the fact that you got these 4 cases, 400 years in jail, 91 felony counts, two silly, very, very silly impeachments. I think people really see through this, and it's going the exact opposite direction that they wanted it to go. but it worked with their base. I think their base are tried and true, and they're like, this guy's a criminal, he's the worst, and they're out there being evangelists, anti-Trump. I just don't think it's enough.
Right. No,
Wendy,
I
I
don't
think they were. Wendy, I also
Go
think that they were banking on a conviction before the election, because polls have said that if Donald Trump is convicted, I think a third of his supporters might step away.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And you know what, Chris? People are watching this political lawfare. It baffles me to watch voters predictably and consistently, though, vote in and re-elect lousy candidates. Fani Willis survived her election primary challenge this week in Georgia. The woman is the subject of a House ethics investigation. Voters don't care. Like, what's it going to take to break through, Chris?
Well, I think, you have a heavily Democratic county there in Fulton. She's the first female black district attorney down there. She played that up. And I think that's why she was reelected. We had that same situation here in St. Louis with Kim Gardner, who was a Soros appointed prosecutor. She got reelected as well. So we experienced that same phenomenon here.
Yeah, we'd like the best candidates. I don't really care what they look like. I'm sorry if that sounds outdated, folks. Mary, Donald Trump is the only president in modern history to leave office poorer than when he started. We stumbled upon this. This is wild. Bill Clinton's net worth exploded by 6,000%. Barack Obama's went up 70-fold. Trump lost $700 million during his presidency. Does that tell us anything, Mary?
Well, I think obviously for those of us who are sane and our brains aren't broken, we look at this and we're like, yeah, the guy didn't take his paycheck, right? He donated it every time. They've done nothing but try to drain the coffers for him. They're trying to literally bleed this man dry. Right. So it makes sense. If you're on the left and your brain is broken, then you're looking at this going, well, if he wasn't a criminal, then he wouldn't have lost all that money.
Right.
I can't wait to see what the Bidens is, though, by the end of this. Right. Like, and I want to know how much of it came from China, how much of it came from Ukraine. If we could do a breakdown, I think that would be super beneficial.
Right. And, finally, Rich, I have to ask you, in any community out there, is abortion really going to move the needle? Do you think that's going to be, because I think that's what Democrats think is going to save them. That and creating this threats to democracy nonsense. Is that moving the needle in New York?
I don't see that moving the needle at all. But I'm going to tell you that that's an issue that's almost impenetrable in this area, right? The day you see a very robust pro-life movement coming out of New York, New Jersey, this East Coast, good luck, Godspeed, right? I hope that's the case one day in my lifetime, but it's not. So I don't think that that's the case. I think they've bought that hook, line, and sinker, just like the Second Amendment's another non-issue. 10 guys like me is not going to take on the millions that hate me for loving the Constitution. And it's a sad truth. And this is why, go back to what Chris and Mary said, this is exactly why you have people like Fani Willis, who I like to call Funny Willis, because they win, and they win because they have this electorate that's kind of like juiced in. And it's a plan. When AOC moved to the Bronx, she knew exactly what she was doing. And I think we see it in places like Austin, Texas, and in Colorado. And it's a plan that they have. They dedicate their lives to this. They don't have children.
To ruining America
full time.
Yes.
To winning as best they can. And we've got to beat them.
You guys, thank you guys. I appreciate you being here.